Is it just me, or does this job market completely suck? In this video today, we're going to talk about the current job market, the challenges candidates are experiencing, and what you can do to make sure you stand out and find the job of your dreams. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 9 of the Recruiting Heroes Show. I am your host, Colin Whittington. I'm also the CEO and founder of Recruiting Heroes LLC, and I am so honored and touched that you decided to spend a few minutes of your day with me today to talk about the current job market and what you can do to stand out from candidates that are competing for the same positions that you are. You know, they say that currently about every single corporate job opening out there gets about 250 applications for every one candidate hired. So the competition is probably more difficult now than it ever has been, or at least in recent memory. And this is going to be extremely challenging, especially for those coming out of law enforcement or the military who are new to the private sector and haven't experienced, this type of a job market before. It's going to be a little challenging at first to figure out exactly where you fit in and how to stand out from the crowd. But that's really what this channel is all about. I hope you've enjoyed our previous videos and hope you continue to follow us. Obviously, please do like and subscribe to this channel. It means more to me than you possibly can know. The more people we can reach, the better this channel is going to be. So I really appreciate it. And if you have ideas for video content, please do let me know in the comments below. I want to make sure I'm producing stuff that's useful to you and not just things that I think could be helpful, because only you can really understand what you're going through. And, the more you can tell me, the more I can provide services to you that might be beneficial. Speaking of which, this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, I'm going to be hosting my next virtual session on YouTube Live. It's going to be my 6-month exit strategy for those leaving law enforcement. So if you're in your final year or two of law enforcement and want to start thinking about what's coming next in your career, I'm going to lay out exactly what I recommend law enforcement officers do in their last 6 months before they transition to the private sector. Again, it's completely free. If you're interested in attending, the link is going to be down below in the comments section. So do make sure you register. During the training, I'm going to be giving away a free resume writing service, a free LinkedIn optimization service, and a few other discounts and surprises for you as well. So do make sure you join on Wednesday. What is that? January the 29th at 7 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then later on in this video, we're going to be giving away our free Heroes Job Search Guide, which includes a resume template, instructions on how to write a strong resume for the private sector, LinkedIn optimization strategies and tips, and so much more. Again, it's a free resource we'll be giving away. So make sure you stick around until the end to get that, get your hands on that, because it's going to be a game changer for your job search process. All right. Well, I'm really excited about this topic. In my job as the CEO of Recruiting Heroes, I have the chance to talk with a lot of law enforcement officers and military veterans every single day. I also live on LinkedIn, and I get to see the comments and posts from job seekers all around the country and the world who are looking for opportunities. And it's a brutal job market. I got to tell you, 2024 was incredibly challenging. There were a lot of layoffs, a lot of companies doing hiring freezes, and just really bad behavior from companies and recruiters. How many of you have been ghosted by companies? If you have been, share it in your comments. If you have a really negative experience, like have you gone through a 10-interview process experience? Put that in the comments as well. I'd love to hear what the negative things you have experienced, because some of the things I'm hearing is pretty crazy. I saw a post today from a lady who mentioned about applying for a job, and the company had asked her to create like a 2 or 3 minute long video where she talks about herself and her values and what she could bring to the team. And that's just bizarre to me. Like, we're not circus animals here. We're applying for a job, and these companies are making their candidates jump through all these hoops at times. And it's kind of, almost disgusting in my opinion. Unless you're hiring for like the CEO of a massive Fortune 50, Fortune 500 company, there's no reason why an interview process should be more than, 2 or 3 interviews. If you can't decide if a candidate is a good fit for you and your organization after about 2 or 3 interviews, I think the problem lies with you and your hiring process and not with the candidates you're interviewing. So a lot of what's causing this terrible job market is the behavior of companies and recruiters. So if you are a hiring manager or a recruiter, do better. And if you're one of the ones who are doing really well, keep it up. It's so important that we treat our candidates with respect and, show them the courtesy they deserve. If they've interviewed 2 or 3 times with you and for whatever reason they're not a good fit for you, pick up your damn phone and call them. These automatic rejections, or just even worse, ghosting of candidates who have interviewed numerous times with you, is unacceptable. And we need to change that whole mindset around that, because it's just gross. We should no longer be accepting that in any industry, regardless of how popular it is, how many candidates are chasing after jobs with your company. The way you behave in the hiring process speaks about you and your organization. So make sure you are better than that. But I really do want to talk more about the candidate side of things. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, they're estimating that about every single corporate job out there is receiving around 250 applications and for just one position. So that means you're competing against 249 other candidates when you're applying for a job. That makes it incredibly challenging to stand out. What's going to make you different from, every single one of the candidates out there? And if you're in law enforcement, you should really embrace the fact that you come from a law enforcement background, because chances are you'll probably be one of the few in the hiring process who has that background. So that alone will make you interesting to the hiring manager and the recruiter. You want to embrace that and really articulate what you as a candidate bring to the table. So one of the ways to stand out, one of the first things I always recommend candidates have as strong as possible is their resume. I mentioned it before, and I'll say it many times again, that resumes really aren't a thing in law enforcement. It doesn't really matter. When you're applying for a job, a job in law enforcement, hardly ever do you have to submit a resume. And if you do, it's usually just a formality for HR to have on file. It's nothing. It doesn't really make a huge difference whether or not you're hired. If your resume looks a bit of a mess, that's not going to be the reason you don't get hired by a law enforcement agency. Chances are it'll be something in your background, or failing a physical test or psychological test, or you name it. It's not going to be your resume. But in the private sector, if your resume sucks and it's not lined up for set up for success, you're going to get turned away just because of your resume before you even have a chance to really compete for a job. Because a resume, for the most part, unless you're recommended by somebody internally, is going to be the first thing a company hears or sees about you. So your resume needs to be as strong as possible to make sure that you actually get the attention of the recruiter and make it to the next phase of the interview process. The resume topic is a massive one. If you need more help on resume writing, I did have a previous YouTube live training event on it. I'll put the link to that video in the training below. So make sure you do check that out. And if you need help with your resume in a more advanced setting as well, that's what my company does. So Recruiting Heroes LLC is a national employment agency. And what we do is we help law enforcement officers and military veterans transition to the private sector. Everyone on my team and myself have been prior law enforcement or prior military, and all we do is help our heroes with their transition to the private sector. We've had the chance to work with some massive corporations such as Allied Universal Security, Wegmans, L3 Harris, and so many others. So trust me when I say that we know what these companies are looking for. And better yet, we know what you have done in your career, and we know how to articulate it so civilians can understand. So if you do need help with your resume, reach out to us. It's what we do every single day. Last year we wrote around 300 or 400 resumes for law enforcement officers alone. I'm hoping this year to be above 500, and maybe yours can be one of the ones that we help write for, and it'd be an honor for us to do that for you. So after LinkedIn is squared away, you also want to make sure your LinkedIn is as strong as possible. Again, LinkedIn is not a thing in law enforcement. Law enforcement agencies do not use it to their detriment in many cases. They don't use it for their own recruiting. They don't use it to figure out if a candidate's a good fit. They don't use it for anything, really. But in the private sector, recruiters are living on LinkedIn. As I mentioned earlier, I spend hours a day on LinkedIn trying to find candidates for the roles that we are recruiting for. Of course, companies are advertising their jobs on their job boards and on their website, but for the most part, they're finding their candidates through active sourcing or searching for candidates on LinkedIn. So if you're not active on the platform, or your profile is not set up for success, you're not going to attract the recruiter's attention. And if they do happen to go to your profile, they might actually be turned away or turned off by the stuff they see on your profile. And there's some very specific things that you want to do to make sure you stand out to these recruiters. So again, stick around to the end of this video, because I'm going to be giving away our Heroes Job Search Guide, which includes a step-by-step instructional guide on how to optimize your LinkedIn profile. So it's highly worth just sticking around just for that, because again, it's free and it'll tell you what to do with your profile. But again, if you want more professional help with your LinkedIn profile, that's another thing that my company specializes in. We actually go into our candidates' LinkedIn profiles and we go step by step to look at every little bit of the profile and think and see, does this articulate our candidate's skill set, and does it attract the attention of recruiters and hiring managers in his or her desired industry? So if you want to get into IT, or if you want to get into recruiting or security or any other field, we try to make sure that your profile is set up for success in that specific industry with the proper keywords, the proper alignment, everything else we could possibly think of. We make sure your profile is set up for success. Again, that service, as well as our resume service, can be found at our website, which is recruitingheroesllc.com. So do check it out. If you've watched this video and you want your service, I'll give you 20% off as well. So just mention watching this YouTube video, and I'd be really happy to take 20% off for you. So make sure you do that. Another big key about LinkedIn and just in general job search is networking. We need to, as law enforcement officers and military veterans, prioritize networking throughout our career, but especially in the last 6 to 12 months. In this current job market, which again is one of the worst we've seen in many years, it's who you know more than what you know in many cases. And we in law enforcement and the military have a chance to attend so many training events. We go on calls for service with other agencies. We travel around the country for various conferences and other items as well. You should be connecting with other professionals in your career and linking up with them on LinkedIn, because you never know how 5-10 years down the road, you and this person may meet up again in the private sector, and making that connection can actually land you a job with your dream company or dream industry. So start networking, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll put my profile up right now, and that's going to be me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with you. So do make sure you send me a connection request. And if you need help finding a job, just even message me. It doesn't have to be an official paid service or anything else like that. If you just want to, shoot some ideas off bounce some ideas off of me, that would be totally fine by me. Reach out to me and connect with me, and I'll do whatever I can to help you. If you just want me to give you a shout out on LinkedIn, I can do that as well. I'm very happy to, share a picture of you and give a little brief bio about your background and share it with my thousands of followers that may or may not have opportunities for you. But at the very least, it should be able to grow your network, which is great as well. So make sure you do reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with you. But beyond just me, reach out to other professionals in your industry. When you're applying for jobs, find people at the company that you're applying to and reach out to them. Again, some people may ignore you, that's fine. But if you reach out to 10 people and even just one person gets back to you with a bit of advice, or is willing to jump on a phone call with you, or may know the recruiter or the hiring manager, that is gold. That is how you're going to set yourself apart from all the other candidates who are simply just applying and hoping for the best. Don't let that be your strategy. Another big part, again, back to the resume, is the importance of tailoring your resume. So many candidates I work with tell me that they've been applying for numerous jobs, and I ask them to show me the resumes they've been using, and they'll send me one resume. I'm like, okay, is this the only one you've been using? And they'll say yes. I'm like, okay, well, the resume is decent, but again, it's impossible to make one resume that's a perfect fit for every job that's in the private sector. The job duties and job responsibilities are so diverse that to make a resume a good fit for that one, you really have to make it specifically for that job. And it doesn't necessarily mean completely rewriting your whole resume, but making small, incremental, and strategic changes can be crucial. We've all heard about applicant tracking systems. They are a thing. It's not something you should lose sleep over, but it's something you need to be aware of. So tailor your resume, even if it's a minor change. Let's say you have on your resume that you coached rookie officers. Let's say you were an FTO and you coached rookie officers. But on the job description, the company's looking for someone who has mentored new employees, right? You did do that exact thing, but on your resume, you're not articulating it in that way. And what's going to happen is when the system scans your resume, it's not going to highlight you having that skill set just because you use slightly different words. And even though it seems ridiculous, that minor change from changing it from coach to mentoring and rookie officer to new employee, that change can be a big difference in scoring higher on the applicant tracking system and then increasing your chances that a real recruiter will actually look at your resume and take the time to get to look at you and then hopefully also interview as well. Which takes me on to one of our last steps, is nailing the interview. You need to be 100% prepared when it comes to your interview. This job market, like I said, is brutal. and not many candidates are getting a lot of chances at interviewing. So when you do land a chance to interview for a job, you need to be fully prepared. You need to know things about the company, which means you need to spend time on their website, on their social media platforms, doing research, seeing if there are any news articles written about them. Do real research and see what exactly is their mission, what is their purpose, and what are they trying to hire for. Go through the job description and see what exactly they're looking for as terms of candidates, and have an answer for every single requirement, every single job duty. Have an argument or a point to make where you can show that you are the perfect fit for that job. Don't just be reactive and show up and hope for the best. Go in there with a strategic plan, and you will crush that interview. And this is going to be a future interview a video as well. We talk about interviewing because it's such a massive topic. I could talk about it for hours, but just take the time to research your company. If nothing else, going in there and showing that you've taken the time to get to know the company will put you light years ahead of other candidates, many of whom won't even be able to name the company's name because they just don't even care. They're just trying to, there's one of dozens of interviews they're trying to do. So be different in the fact that you actually give a crap about this job and this company. That will set you apart. And just be active on LinkedIn, be active on other social media platforms, and connect with each other. Build your personal brand. You don't have to post all the time, but even once a week, once every 2 weeks, sharing something about the industry you're in, sharing an accomplishment in your career, an award you won, things like that can make you grow your personal brand, which again will grow your network and then also help you down the road when you're looking for a job. So start that process early. Even if you're a few years away from retiring or leaving law enforcement or the military, start that process now. Building a powerful network takes time. It's not something you're going to do overnight. So make sure you take that time to do that. Okay, guys, I think that's really it for today. I want to keep this relatively brief. And again, I do hope you can leave some comments for me about topics you want me to cover in the future. It always helps a lot to know what my audience is excited about. But I do want to remind you again that on Wednesday, January the 29th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be having a live training event on your final 6 months in law enforcement or the military and what you can do in those final 6 months to really increase your chances of landing a phenomenal job in the private sector, and then approaching that transition with a calm demeanor versus feeling rushed and stressed at the end. It's going to be a great session. You'll have the chance to answer questions. I'm going to be giving away a free resource and services for free. So I think it'll be highly worth your time. So do make sure you click the link below to register for Wednesday, the 29th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be live here on YouTube, and I cannot wait. And finally, I did promise to give away our free Heroes Job Search Guide. So what you want to do is going to go to recruitingheroesllc.com, go to the candidate services section, scroll all the way down past all of our wonderful services, which you should check out as well, but scroll down to the free downloads. And there you'll see that the Heroes Job Search Guide has actually been discounted from $49.99 to $0, meaning it's completely free for you. Enter your email and we'll send that guide directly to you. It's going to come with a resume template, instructions on how to write a resume, step-by-step instructions on how to optimize your LinkedIn profile, a few interview tips, and a few other things as well that I think you'll love. It's a great resource for you, and again, it's completely free. I do hope you can tell others about this channel. Again, we owe it to our law enforcement officers, other first responders, and military veterans to provide them with phenomenal resources so that they can make a great transition to the private sector. So anyone you can tell about this channel would mean the world to me, and I think it could mean the world to them as well. So do like and subscribe to this channel, and then I'll see you hopefully all on Wednesday the 29th at 7 p.m. It's going to be a great time, but until then, stay safe. It's a crazy world out there, so I wish you all the best, and make sure you continue holding the thin blue line, doing well in the military and other first responder jobs as well. I appreciate your service. Take care, y'all. Bye.